In the heart of an Arctic winter, when the night lasts for weeks and the wind can tear a modern campfire apart in seconds, reindeer herders faced a problem that should have been impossible to solve. How do you keep a flame alive in a world designed to kill it? Yet for centuries, the Sámi and Nenets engineered fire pits so stable, so precise, and so weatherproof that even a full-force blizzard couldn't put them out. While today's campers struggle with gas stoves and damp wood, these herders built fires that burned through the longest Christmas nights without a single adjustment. Their secret lay in a deep, almost scientific understanding of Arctic materials. Rotten spruce that burns without sparks, standing dead pine that glows like a slow furnace, and willow that produces embers capable of surviving a storm. And with systems like the Árran hearth and the legendary Nuorssjo long log fire, they turned airflow, thermal mass, and wind itself into tools. How did Arctic fire masters engineer flames that the storm couldn't touch? Part 1. In the vast, silent expanse of the Arctic, where winter reigns for more than half the year, survival is a story written in fire. For millennia, the indigenous peoples of the circumpolar north, from the Sámi of Sápmi to the Nenets of Siberia, have thrived in a landscape that would seem impossibly hostile to outsiders. Their lives, inextricably linked to the great reindeer herds, have been a masterclass in adaptation, a testament to a deep, observational science passed down through countless generations. At the very heart of this survival, the literal and metaphorical center of their homes and their culture, was the fire. Not just any fire, but an engineered system, a carefully constructed hearth designed to provide constant, reliable warmth through the longest, darkest nights and the most ferocious, wind-driven storms. This is the story of how these ancient masters of the cold, engineered fire pits that could endure the worst the Arctic could unleash, creating a source of life and light that, like a mythical Christmas flame, seemed as if it would never go out. Our journey takes us to Sápmi, the ancestral lands of the Sámi people, stretching across the northern parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia's Kola Peninsula. Here, where temperatures can plummet to -50 degrees Celsius and blizzards can rage for days, the concept of a simple campfire is a dangerous luxury. A fire in the Arctic is not a temporary convenience, it is a lifeline. It is the difference between a warm meal and starvation, between a dry shelter and deadly hypothermia, between community and isolation. The challenge was immense. How to maintain a fire in a treeless tundra with fuel that is often green, damp, or buried under meters of snow, and in winds that can extinguish a flame in an instant. The very ground itself, often frozen solid as permafrost, presented a challenge, sucking heat away from any fire built directly upon it. The answer lies in a sophisticated body of knowledge, a firecraft that goes far beyond simply striking a spark. It involves an intimate understanding of wood types and their unique properties, from the quick-burning dwarf birch to the slow-glowing rotten spruce. It involves ingenious construction techniques like the Sámi long log fire or Nuorssjo, a self-regulating furnace that can burn unattended for up to 9 hours. And it involves the perfect integration of the fire with its shelter, the iconic Lavvu tent, creating a symbiotic system where the structure protects the fire, and the fire breathes life into the structure. This integration was so complete that the fire became a structural element, its rising heat helping to stabilize the tent, and its light defining the social space within. This is not a tale of magic, but of physics. It is about airflow, thermal mass, fuel density, and the precise control of combustion. The Sámi and other reindeer herders were, in effect, thermal engineers. They learned to manipulate the elements to create a stable, long-lasting heat source that was both safe and efficient. Their fire pits were not just pits in the ground, they were carefully designed hearths, often built with specific stone arrangements to protect the embers and radiate heat. Their long-burning fires were not just piles of logs, they were precisely stacked structures that controlled the rate of burn with remarkable accuracy. This was a technology developed through millennia of trial and error, a process of iterative design where failed experiments could have fatal consequences. In this script, we will deconstruct these ancient technologies. We will explore the material science of Arctic fuels, revealing why green willow can be a better fuel than dry pine in certain conditions. We will detail the step-by-step construction of the legendary Sámi long log fire, a technique so effective it was dubbed the King of Fires by modern survival experts. We will analyze the design of the central Lavvu hearth, the Árran, and explain how it worked in concert with the tent's conical shape to create a natural ventilation system that was both safe and warm. And we will simulate how these fire systems performed in the face of a full-blown Santa-level Arctic storm, demonstrating the scientific principles that allowed them to burn steadily through the longest Christmas night. This is the story of an engineering marvel, a fire that could not be extinguished. It is a narrative that challenges our modern assumptions about technology and progress, revealing that true innovation is often born not from complex machinery, but from a profound and patient observation of the natural world. The fire pits of the Arctic reindeer herders were more than just a means of survival. They were a cultural hearth, a center of community, and a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity in the face of the most extreme conditions on Earth. Around the glowing embers of the Árran, stories were told, traditions were passed down, and the social bonds that held the community together were forged and reinforced. The fire was a witness to births, deaths, and ceremonies, its light illuminating the faces of generations and its warmth providing a shared sense of security and belonging in a vast and often intimidating world. Part 2. The foundation of any fire is its fuel, and in the harsh environment of the Arctic, the selection of the right fuel was a science in itself. The Sámi reindeer herders, constantly on the move with their herds, could not rely on large stores of seasoned, dry firewood. They had to use what the landscape provided, and their knowledge of the local flora was encyclopedic. They understood that not all wood is created equal, and that the properties of a fuel could change dramatically depending on the species, its condition, and the time of year. In the lower elevations, in the vast boreal forests, the primary fuels were pine and spruce. The Sámi made a critical distinction when it came to pine, Pinus sylvestris. A living pine was not ideal, but a standing dead pine, known in the Sámi language as a sorve, was a prized resource. These trees, having died while standing, would slowly dry out over decades, protected from ground moisture. Their wood was dense, dry, and perfect for a long-lasting hot fire. This was the wood of choice for the legendary Nuorssjo, the double-log fire we will explore later. Spruce, Picea abies, known as Nuorssjo, was treated with more caution. Dry spruce is notoriously full of resin pockets that pop and throw sparks, making it a dangerous choice for an open fire inside a tent. However, the Sámi discovered that when spruce had decayed and become rotten through, it transformed into a completely different type of fuel. This rotten spruce would not flame brightly, but would glow and burn softly for hours without making sparks. This made it the ideal fuel for a night fire inside the Lavvu, providing a steady, safe source of warmth while the family slept. As one moves higher in elevation, above the conifer tree line, the landscape changes. Here, the dominant tree is the hardy mountain birch, Betula pubescens. When a birch tree dies, its waterproof bark prevents the wood from drying out. Instead, it decays into a soft, punky material that is a poor fuel. The Sámi, therefore, relied almost exclusively on freshly cut green birch. This seems counterintuitive to modern campers, who are taught to search for dry, dead wood. But the Sámi knew that despite being fresh and damp, green birch burns remarkably well once a fire is established. The heat of the fire drives the moisture out of the wood, and the unique cellular structure of birch allows it to burn cleanly and produce long-lasting embers. Its embers glow for a long time, providing a consistent source of heat for cooking and warmth inside the tent. Higher still, in the treeless tundra, the fuel sources become even more specialized. Here, the Sámi relied on willow bushes, Salix species, or Sierga. When willow dies, it dries out quickly, and the dry twigs are excellent for starting a fire. But there is never much of it in one place. Instead, the herders would use live, green willow. Like green birch, it burns surprisingly well, and its embers stay alive and glowing for many hours, far longer than the coals from dry wood. The ability to use green willow was so crucial that in nomadic times, some Sámi families were able to spend the entire winter in the high mountains, living in their lavvus and using nothing but green willow for fuel. In the highest, most exposed areas, where even willow is scarce, the herders turned to dwarf birch, Betula nana, or skier. This low-growing shrub was used as a summer fuel. Its slender twigs burned fresh with their green leaves. It burns quickly, providing a hot, short-lived fire perfect for boiling a pot of coffee. And in the most desperate situations, the Sámi knew the secret of juniper, Juniperus species, or gascas. They called it the lifesaver of the mountains. When a juniper bush dies and dries out, its wood becomes incredibly hard and dense. It does not absorb water, even in the heaviest rain. No matter how terrible the weather, a fire could always be started with a few pieces of old, dry juniper. This deep material knowledge was the first step in engineering a fire that could not be extinguished. It was not enough to simply find wood. One had to find the right wood for the right purpose. The sparking spruce for a quick outdoor fire, the glowing rotten spruce for a safe indoor fire, the long-burning pine for an all-night fire, and the life-saving juniper for a fire in a storm. This was the science of Arctic fuel, a knowledge system as complex and sophisticated as any modern engineering manual, a library of thermal properties written not in books, but in the landscape itself, and read with an expert eye by the reindeer herders. Part 3. With the right fuel selected, the next step was the construction of the fire itself. The Arctic reindeer herders developed two primary types of fire pits, each a masterpiece of thermal engineering designed for a specific purpose. The central hearth of the Lavvu, the Árran, and the all-night self-regulating furnace, the Nuorssjo. The Árran was the heart of the Lavvu. It was not simply a pile of burning wood on the ground. It was a carefully constructed hearth, typically located directly under the smoke hole of the tent. The base of the Árran was often lined with a ring of stones. These stones served several critical functions. First, they contained the fire, preventing the embers from spreading to the birch twig floor and reindeer hide bedding. Second, and more importantly, the stones acted as a thermal battery. They would absorb heat from the fire and then slowly radiate that heat back into the living space long after the flames had died down. This created a more stable and comfortable interior temperature, smoothing out the peaks and valleys of a flaming fire. The stone ring was a simple but brilliant use of thermal mass to improve heating efficiency. The management of the Árran was a continuous process. The fire was kept small and controlled, providing enough heat for warmth and cooking without producing excessive smoke. The ventilation system of the Lavvu was key to this. The rising column of hot air from the fire created a powerful updraft known as the stack effect. This drew the smoke out of the smoke hole at the top, while simultaneously pulling fresh, oxygen-rich air in through the door flap at the bottom. This constant, gentle airflow was essential. It kept the fire burning cleanly and efficiently, prevented the buildup of dangerous carbon monoxide, and removed moisture from the air, keeping the interior dry and healthy. While the Árran was the center of daily life, it was the Nuorssjo, or Sámi long log fire, that was the true engineering marvel, the Christmas night fire that would burn through the fiercest storm. This was the fire used for sleeping outdoors in the most extreme cold, often in temperatures of -20 or -30 degrees Celsius. Its design is a masterclass in controlling the rate of combustion. The construction, as documented by modern bushcraft experts who learned it from Sámi tradition, is precise. The herder would first find a large, standing dead pine, a sorve, at least 50 centimeters in diameter. The log would be cut into 2 sections, each about 2 meters long. Then, using an axe, one side of each log would be flattened. The bottom log was laid on the ground, or on a platform of green logs, if on deep snow, with the flat side facing up. A small fire was then lit on top of this flat surface, using tinder like birch bark and resinous pine splinters. Once this initial fire was burning well, the second log was placed on top, with its flat side facing down, sandwiching the fire between the 2 logs. The key to the Nuorssjo's longevity is the gap between the 2 logs. This gap was carefully regulated using small wooden wedges or stones. A smaller gap restricted the airflow, causing the fire to smolder slowly and release its energy over a very long period. A larger gap would allow more air in, creating a hotter, faster-burning fire. By precisely controlling this gap, the herder could dial in the desired heat output and burn time. The massive thermal mass of the 2 large logs acted as a heat sink and a fuel source, slowly charring and combusting in the low oxygen environment between them. The result was a fire that could burn steadily for 6 to 9 hours with no management whatsoever, a perfect self-regulating furnace for a long Arctic night. This remarkable feat of engineering allowed a herder to sleep through the night without having to constantly tend the fire, conserving precious energy and ensuring a safe and warm rest. The Nuorssjo was not just a fire. It was a guardian, a silent, glowing sentinel against the deadly cold. Part 4. Let us return to the scene of the Arctic blizzard. The wind is howling at over 100 kilometers per hour, driving a blinding wall of snow across the tundra. A reindeer herder, caught out on the trail, has taken refuge in a hastily constructed lean-to shelter. Between the shelter and a natural windbreak of rocks, he has built a Nuorssjo. Inside a Lavvu a few kilometers away, his family is gathered around the central Árran. In both locations, the fire, the engineered heart of their survival, is being put to the ultimate test. Outside, the Nuorssjo appears almost serene in the midst of the chaos. The 2 massive logs, now covered in a layer of insulating snow, protect the glowing heart of the fire. The wind, instead of extinguishing the flames, is actually helping the fire to burn. As the wind blows over the top of the logs, it creates a low-pressure zone which helps to pull air through the narrow gap between them. This provides a steady supply of oxygen to the smoldering embers, keeping the fire alive. The heat radiating from the gap is directed towards the herder's shelter, providing a constant, life-sustaining warmth. The fire does not need to be tended. It simply burns, a slow, steady release of energy, a testament to its brilliant design. It will continue to burn like this for the rest of the night, a beacon of warmth in the frozen darkness. Inside the Lavvu, the situation is equally dramatic. The conical shape of the tent sheds the wind, and the flexible birch poles bend but do not break. The central Árran glows brightly. The stack effect, which is crucial for ventilation, is now supercharged by the storm. The high winds passing over the smoke hole create a powerful suction, pulling air through the tent at an accelerated rate. This would be a disaster in a modern tent, as it would suck all the warm air out. But the Sámi had an ingenious solution. The entrance to the Lavvu was not just a simple flap. It was often a curved or angled passageway, sometimes dug into the snow. This design acted as a cold trap and a windbreak, preventing the wind from blowing directly into the living space. The fresh air that was drawn in was therefore relatively calm and was warmed by the radiant heat of the Árran before it circulated through the tent. Furthermore, the fire itself was protected. The ring of stones around the Árran shielded the embers from any sudden drafts. Even if a strong gust of wind were to find its way into the Lavvu, it could not blow the fire out. The glowing coals, nestled deep within the stone circle, would be safe. The family could add more fuel as needed, perhaps some of the slow-glowing rotten spruce they had gathered, to keep the fire burning through the night. The combination of the protected hearth, the radiant thermal mass of the stones, and the active ventilation system of the Lavvu created a safe, warm, and breathable environment, an island of calm in the heart of the storm. This is the genius of Arctic fire engineering. It is not about creating a bigger, hotter fire. It is about creating a smarter, more resilient fire. It is about understanding the forces of nature, wind, cold, and snow, and using them to one's advantage. The Nuorssjo used the wind to feed itself. The Árran used the wind to ventilate itself. Both systems were designed not to fight the storm, but to dance with it. They were fire pits that could not be extinguished because they were designed from the very beginning to be a part of the storm itself. This symbiotic relationship with the environment is the hallmark of indigenous engineering. It is a philosophy that stands in stark contrast to the modern approach of building bigger walls and stronger barriers. The Sámi did not try to conquer the storm, they harnessed its power. Their fires did not just survive the blizzard, they thrived in it. Part 5. The traditional knowledge of the Arctic reindeer herders, from their sophisticated firecraft to their resilient architecture, represents a priceless cultural heritage. For centuries, this knowledge was passed down orally, from parent to child, through demonstration and storytelling. However, the 20th century brought rapid and often disruptive changes to the Arctic. The forced settlement policies of the 1950s and 60s, the arrival of the snowmobile, and the encroachment of modern industrial society all threatened to break the chain of transmission. As families moved into permanent houses with electric heating, the daily necessity of building and maintaining a traditional fire began to fade. Fortunately, this knowledge was not lost. In recent decades, there has been a powerful resurgence of interest in traditional skills, both within Sámi communities and among outdoor enthusiasts and survival experts worldwide. People like the legendary Canadian bushcraft instructor Mors Kochanski, who famously dubbed the Nuorssjo, the King of Fires, have played a crucial role in documenting and disseminating these ancient techniques. Kochanski, who learned of the fire long after publishing his seminal book Bushcraft, recognized its superior design and worked to understand and teach its principles to a new generation. Today, the Sámi long log fire is a staple of advanced winter survival courses. Its efficiency and reliability are a revelation to those accustomed to modern camping equipment. It demonstrates that in the most extreme conditions, a deep understanding of natural principles can outperform the most expensive high-tech gear. The fire that kept a reindeer herder warm through a 9-hour blizzard is now being built by students of bushcraft in the forests of North America and Europe, a testament to the universal power of its design. Beyond the realm of survival skills, the principles of Arctic fire engineering hold profound lessons for our modern, energy-hungry world. The Árran in the Lavvu is a model of integrated sustainable design. It combines heating, cooking, and ventilation into a single efficient system that uses a local, renewable fuel source. The use of thermal mass in the stone hearth is a principle that is now being rediscovered by architects of passive solar homes. The stack effect ventilation is the same principle used in modern, energy-efficient building design to create natural airflow without the need for electric fans. The Nuorssjo is a model of slow, controlled combustion, the very principle behind modern high-efficiency wood stoves. By limiting the oxygen supply and maximizing the thermal mass of the fuel, it extracts the maximum amount of energy from the wood over the longest possible time. It is a low-tech, high-efficiency furnace, a perfect example of how to do more with less. In an age of climate change, the wisdom of the Arctic reindeer herders is more relevant than ever. Their way of life was based on a deep respect for the environment and a profound understanding of its limits. They created a technology of survival that was not only effective, but also sustainable. Their fire pits, which burned brightly through the longest Christmas nights, were not just a source of warmth. They were a symbol of a different way of thinking, a way of living in harmony with the forces of nature. The story of their engineered fires is a reminder that the solutions to our future challenges may not lie in new inventions, but in the rediscovery of ancient wisdom, a wisdom that is waiting to be rekindled. As we face the challenges of a changing climate and the need for more sustainable ways of living, the lessons of the Arctic fire masters are more valuable than ever. They teach us that resilience is not about brute force, but about intelligent design, and that a truly sustainable system is one that is deeply integrated with its environment. They show us that the most powerful technologies are often the simplest, born from a direct and respectful relationship with the natural world. And they remind us that for thousands of years, in the coldest, darkest corners of the world, a small, well-tended fire has always been enough to hold back the night, a powerful symbol of human ingenuity, community, and the enduring flame of hope.